So please, let's adjust our fucking values.
Part of the non-proliferation treaty?
Well, hang on, you're
I'm
trying
asking
to say...
your question. Don't analyse my question. Answer it if you can. If not, it's fine. If it's too hard, don't answer it.
I think that Britain has the right to possess nuclear weapons.
So we are exempt, as ever?
No. Osama bin Laden did not allow any of the 3,000 people in New York and Washington on 9/11 any rights. He took away every single right that any of the people in those towers or their families had. He didn't grant any rights to the families or the victims of the 7/7 subway and bus bombings, which he inspired. It went on, and it's a good thing that the story has now finished.
It hasn't.
You know, I'm a gay man. I'd love to have gay marriage approved by the Catholic Church. But, you know, they're not going to. Meantime, I really, really wish that people would reserve their ire for the people who don't just want to stop me marrying, but want to throw me off a cliff. Much better way to spend your time.
Iran, because you didn't do so well in Iraq. Just go bomb Iran.
No,
go to another playground.
If you were yourself capable of subtlety, you'd...
Yeah, and the 9/11, the people that perpetrated 9/11 were not even fundamentalists at all, okay? At all. You guys make this connection all of the time. They were not. They were more secular than most... Oh, come on. Then you guys don't even know the history of the people, of the hijackers. Of the majority of the hijackers. Okay.
How can you keep speaking, let alone hosting a show, and know so little? How can you know so little and keep on talking? The 9/11 hijackers weren't fundamentalists?
Not in the way that you're talking about the burqa. No way.
Well, I haven't
look at where they came from. This was more of a political act to commit terrorism. It wasn't out of religious belief. You should get to know your history of the people that attacked the Twin Towers. It's not babble at all.
What babble? You are trying to... I don't know where on earth you're coming from on this. No serious person can even keep on saying the nonsense you're coming out with.
Well, if you read the letters that they left, most Muslims wouldn't do that. Would read the letters that they wrote. They wrote to their girlfriends. They didn't invoke religious law. I mean, learn something about Islam before you say somebody's talking babble, okay? That's ridiculous.
It strikes me that you're speaking from a position of unique ignorance. I don't know, first of all, why it is you keep on using this term Islamophobia to attack all people who are criticizing fundamentalism. It's a quite cheap way to try to avoid an argument. And then you try to claim that people who fly planes into Twin Towers and the Pentagon and so on and blow up people in my city for the crime of going on the subway are not fundamentalists. Just read the tracts of their leaders.
Maybe fundamentalists in the fact that they wanted to create terror, but not necessarily out of religion, if you know the history of each one of those attackers. They're not. That's not true at all. That is very ignorant. Right, all right, let's go to Paris because we're running out of time. Let's go to Paris because we're...
I'm sorry, Douglas. Any of the major texts on this and you'll learn.
I've learned. I know probably more than you'll ever forget. Go ahead.
Well, it's a good... I wish you'd tried to show it.
Okay, Anne.
I wish you'd tried to show it.
Elizabeth, go ahead.
Wow. That was unbelievable, folks. That exchange was unbelievable. And that lady, I guess her name is Anne, she's trying to get a word in edgewise between these two men. Can't do anything, trying to get in there. They're going back and forth. And Douglas is absolutely, I mean, it's like a boxing match inside there. A couple of lefts, few uppercuts, roundhouse, another punch, another combination. This guy has no idea. He's basically trying to say that those people that flew the planes into the towers, into the Pentagon, into the other, places where they flew the planes into, that they were just secularists, that they weren't fundamentalists, they weren't Islamists, just because they wrote some letters, just because they drank some alcohol, because they wrote some letters to their girlfriends or whatever. And he's trying to tell Douglas that he better learn a little bit more about fundamentalism and Islamists and the religion and whatever. And Douglas just basically goes right after him and says, how did you even get a TV show spouting the nonsense and the propaganda that you're doing? Anyways, let's get more to the compilation of Douglas Murray's greatest hits. And before we do that, just want to let you know that you're watching the Dr. Nasir Shaikh Show. I'm your host, Dr. Nasir, where I give you my political prescription from my political perspective of what happens when you got social media, religion, politics, and everything else, and they all collide. Let's get to some more of Douglas Murray.
Exercises a different scale of values in London than she would, say, when she's meeting the head of Hamas in Damascus last year and praising the head of a terrorist group whose organisation carries out terrorist atrocities, which are genuine breaches of international law every single opportunity
Fallujah in Iraq?
Well, what
about Fallujah,
you talk about Tony Blair facing it. When you sit down with somebody like Khalid Mashal, you praise him.
Fallujah, I did not praise him. I said
I've got his comments here.
He was worth talking to, and he was actually quite.
You said he was shrewd, plausible, and actually very likable.
All right, let's get back.
Let's get to uphold international law. That is.
If you go back over that, just catch where Douglas Murray is taking a sip of water and goes, I've got the text right here. Taking a sip of water. I mean, just classic, folks.
My main point.
You've made your point.
I wish you told Karen Michelle.
Douglas Murray, can you...
Yasmin may think that means that you should give that man a bomb. I think he should not get a bomb.
No, I don't think he should have a bomb.
I do not think that in the interest...
That's what I think.
I do not think that in the interest...
That is what I think.
You made it clear by pointing at me and shouting.
I will say to you again...
I saw gays for Palestine. Give me a break. If gays for Palestine were in Palestine, they'd have to move to Israel.
Why isn't Amsterdam the first place to get attacked?
I can assure you that you've made a mistake there. The radicalisation of Muslim youth in Amsterdam is exceedingly worrying. Theo van Gogh was beheaded on the streets of Amsterdam by a young Muslim youth, working from a terror cell based in Amsterdam that fortunately was prevented before it blew up the headquarters of the Dutch intelligence service, the Dutch parliament, and Amsterdam airport.
I was going to say, I think...
Okay, now...
Did you see that, folks? Just catch a look at this person's face here. Go over this thing. He asked a question. Just got to go over that. He asks a question, and he actually gets checkmated because Douglas Murray just pounces on the mistake this person made, bringing up this point. Let's go over that again.
Parliament and Amsterdam airport.
Watch his face.
I was going to say, I think...
Okay, now to make my next point on that, I think it's very important to stress two things on this. Firstly, this false notion that everything about foreign policy is behind us. One of the interesting things, perhaps the most interesting thing in the Policy Exchange report, was the analysis of what young Muslims in the survey knew. So all of the blowhard stuff about I am doing this for my Muslim brethren in Palestine, do you know what tiny percentages of them could even name the Palestinian Prime Minister?
Bullshit.
The tiny number of them that could name Ehud Olmert.
Bullshit.
The tiny number that I think could even locate these areas on
bullshit.
the map. This is a great problem at the moment because demagogic Muslim leaders and others are taking advantage of their opinions. They are telling them they should be enraged about this, that their Muslim brothers are being abused, and that they should be more angry. And a lot of them think in response, yeah, I'll wind myself up about it, and I'll wind other people up about it. But do they ever bother to know anything about it? Do they ever bother to find out? Do they even satiate even basic curiosity? No. And one other thing that comes from this that ought to be said, has to be said now, is this. What if this were to do with foreign policy? I don't think it is. But what if it were to do with foreign policy? So what? So what? Is the British state going to take dictation for its foreign policy from a tiny community within its midst? I don't think so.
No. Editors, a paid member of the KGB. A paid KGB agent who said, oh, it was just a bit of a laugh. Oh, and it still is just a bit of a laugh. Because if it's communism, it's a bit of a laugh. 70 million dead here and there, a bit of a laugh.
Organisations that are struggling because £4 billion, £5 billion on a war that
no
one's asked for.
The people of Libya are suffering and the people of Afghanistan are suffering as well.
I'm going to tell you this now. People on the streets of London don't care. What they care about is their personal life.
Yeah, £200 million a day for Libya.
They care about the fact that they ain't got no job. They care about...
It might not be an either or. It might not be allowing genocide in Libya or you getting more money for your group in London.
For you to...
Well, I mean, as I say, I come back to this thing, which is that even if any of these complaints were true, which they're not, even if they were true, at the moment the Prime Minister goes to Her Majesty the Queen to ask permission to use her armed forces, are we really going to go to the Muslim Council of Britain to ask permission?
I think probably not.
Unbelievable right there. As Douglas basically was saying, that even if, for example, if what they're saying is true in these polls, and I don't think they are, that the reason you have fundamentalists and Islamists that are doing these terrorist activities is because of political maneuvering, political policies, foreign policies, those kind of things. I mean, Douglas just basically makes a point. So freaking what? So freaking what? Are we going to then take dictation? Are we going to basically be held at, gunpoint by these small minority groups? If you do it for one small minority group, everybody else is going to come out of the woodwork and say, oh, you know what? You change your policy for them. Well, guess what? I've got something that I'm upset about, either here on the homeland or back where back where, we came from, or back where my ancestors were from, or in another part of the world. And we want you to change your policy on that because the two of us want it done. I mean, Douglas says, so what? We're not going to do it. We're going to start asking different groups that are just out there for their input into foreign policy decisions? Come on.
From the 20th century had two dreadful totalitarianisms, fascism and communism. Some of the people in this hall would throw out from being ever allowed to speak are being thrown out because once they met somebody who once sat on a platform with somebody who was once a member of a fascist party. Well, I'm sitting on a platform with a communist. That would mean I could never again speak in public if there was any sense to this debate. But there isn't, because people have this debate so ruddy badly. All spend their time polishing their halos. Yes, we're against racism. Yes, we're against fascism. We're against lots of things, but we're going to require a bit more than that, and a bit more of this halo polishing if you're going to deal with that. And as I say, I'll leave you with one final thought on that. If this battle is going to be won, it will not be won solely by the people sitting in Conway Hall here tonight. It will be won by a lot of people. We will have to make judgments along the way, and we'll disagree with them. I'll disagree with Mariam, I'll disagree with Shiraz, and all sorts of friends and colleagues. We'll disagree on individual cases and people. But the idea that you chuck whole swathes of people out of the debate is such a bloody left-wing thing to do. The left loves doing this all the time. The debate will be done on my terms. Well, how easy and how unsurprising it is that the terms are always drawn around themselves. I hope we can do a bit better than that. Thank you.
Wow, wow, wow. Great stuff from Douglas Murray. And for those people that he was sparring with, that was a very nice, small little compilation. We're going to do more of these, folks. But I liked at the very end where Douglas was talking about halo polishing. In other words, these are those woke, social justice warriors, virtue signaling elites. That's what they are. Predominantly, they're all leftists. Liberals, and they're 99.99% white, social justice warrior, halo polishing, virtue signaling idiots. People that I call that are simmering, stewing, SIMR. They're stupid, idiotic, moronic, and retarded. Anyways, folks, we appreciate you taking the time to watch. You've been watching the Dr. Nasir Shaikh Show. I've been your host, Dr. Nasir. If we've earned your subscription, you like our content, please subscribe to the channel. We'd love for you to do that. In the meantime, you know what to do. Like, share, and follow us. Check out our other videos, links above and below. I'll leave you with my final thought, which is, when you're right, you're right. And when you're left, you're wrong. Until next time, folks, take care and stay safe.